Hello to everybody, my name is Stefano, and welcome to this episode of the Think and Analyze podcast. Today, we are dealing with the following topic. Why do we interact with reality the way we do? Okay, so the inspiration for this episode comes from the reading of the Pragmatics of Human Communication by Vaslavich, Bevin, and Jackson. I hope I spelled the names correctly. Now, before reading this book, I was constantly trying to define a sort of structure aimed at understanding why different people react to the same things in different ways, and more specifically, why they interpret in their head the same things in different ways. These doubts stemmed from seeing that after failing at something, some people react positively, so they might say like, okay, I failed, let me try again, whereas others, even if it's their first time trying, after failing, they instantly jump to the conclusion that they are not capable at that specific thing. And that has always sparked some interest in me. I would ask me these kind of questions, or well, I would realize there was something happening at least, even when I was like really young, like 9 or 10 years old. I remember there was this one guy I used to play tennis with, who, as soon as he started to lose like 2 or 3 points in a row, he would become so stiff in his movements, he would get so angry and or sad that he wasn't able to play well again, and therefore he ended up losing the match. The fact is, you could clearly see from his body language and facial expression that he was getting upset. And thus, he ended up losing the match, and not because he wasn't capable of winning it, but because he was upset, he was not focused anymore. On the other hand, but this is not at all to say that I was a better player, when it happened to me to lose some points, I wouldn't react so explicitly, and I didn't get upset so much, or at least as much as him. Of course, I was a little sad if I had lost some points, but that didn't distract me from the moment, and so I was more focused than him. To make another, more recent examples, many months ago, I was talking to this one friend, a very close one, and I told him that when I grew up, I want to do a lot of things, and I cited four of my big dreams that, by the way, I still have. The first thing he told me as a response was, well, apart from telling you that you will never be able to do all four of those things, and then he went on telling his point of view. Now, I might say that those four things are not impossible at all, but that's my perspective and I might not be as objective as I should. In any case, my point is that he didn't answer by saying something like, good luck with that, remember your close friend from high school if you become rich. Which, even if it is a skeptical response, it is still less skeptical than you won't be able to do that. And even also, it has some sort of funny vibe. It is a sort of a joke inside of the response. So I find the response of my friend, the actual response of my friend, quite negative. However, if he had said the same thing to me, I would have answered with something like, you will need to put in the work, but everything is possible. Because I genuinely believe that, at least by now. Now, regardless of whether his approach is better than mine, he reacted differently than I would have. But let's go back to the book. To be more specific, it wasn't the whole book about this, but a few paragraphs which were aimed at defining the human levels of knowledge. And now that I'm getting to this sort of explanation of what I read, I want to say that I don't think I understand the whole book completely, so I'm not telling you that I read this book to make myself look more knowledgeable and all those kind of things. I genuinely and actually believe that I didn't understand it totally. But this part, even if this part I'm about to say um, was much more complicated than I think, still may sort of what I'm about to say makes sense in my opinion, regardless of whether I interpreted what I read in the correct way or not. So in this paragraph, it is first made the distinction between the knowledge of things and the knowledge about things, while also citing Pavlov's dog study. Now, I want to explain what this study consisted of because I don't know it completely. However, I cited it because if you want to have some kind of concrete reference about what I'm going to say, you can look for Pavlov's dog on the internet and make your own research. Back to the types of knowledge. The knowledge of things is what we gain with our senses and nothing else. It is thus the most basic type. If we then move to the upper level, we find, as I said, the knowledge about things, which is the knowledge about the first order knowledge. Well, with the first order, no, sorry, with the first order knowledge being the knowledge of things. And so, therefore, this type we could call second order knowledge. So, to recap, the knowledge of things is the first order knowledge, whereas the knowledge about things, which is the knowledge about the knowledge of things, is the second order knowledge. There are many word puns here, but I cannot avoid them. So forgive me, but let's just continue with what I'm saying. Now, after this recap, to make a reference to Pavlov's dog, the dog's first order knowledge consists in perceiving that there's a circle and an ellipse. Second order knowledge consists, instead, in realizing that the circle and the ellipse imply different consequences for the dog itself. Finally, the total of the various singular pieces of second order knowledge form what might be called third order knowledge, which is basically a unified view of the world. This type of knowledge for Pavlov's dog would be, to use the same words as the book, this is a world in which I am safe as long as I discriminate between the circle and the ellipse. Now, it doesn't matter what view of the world that is, as long as, to quote the exact words, it offers a meaningful premise for one's existence. And still, what is important, however, is that man operates with a set of premises about the phenomena he perceives, and that his interaction with reality in the widest sense will be determined by these premises. Now, this part of this sort of very complicated this very complicated part of the podcast is ended. Now, let's go back to my what I think about this. I find that this whole reasoning really does express what I was looking for. How an individual reacts to different things depends on those premises we just talked about, which are the result of their experience in the world. And to go back to my friend, that's why my friend responded to me in a skeptical way, while I have a more positive approach on the same exact thing. Now, where am I going with all this? Well, basically mine is an attempt to tell everybody to pay strong attention to your third level knowledge. In other words, always be aware of how you are thinking. Always know how you are filtering phenomena. Always be conscious of how you see the world, so that if you have some sort of problem you seem to be unable to fix no matter what, you can stop and think, okay, maybe I am simply approaching the whole thing in the wrong way. Maybe I am filtering everything in such a way that no solution is actually possible. Because let's think about it. If my friend told me that I won't be able to do everything I told him, which I don't believe, because in my opinion other people have done way crazier things, things, that's because he filters reality and thinks that some kind of things are impossible. And that may even be true in some cases. But in my opinion, if you think you are not able to do something before you try, you won't do it, of course. And if you are right, well, you didn't do it. But if you are wrong and you could have done it, you don't know because you didn't try in the first place. Instead, if you believe something is possible, you are going to try it. If you are wrong, well, okay, you tried, you failed. It's highly likely that now your life is a mess and nothing can be fixed. If you are right, well, you know because you have been able to do what you wanted. You tried to do in the first place, and so you know if you were actually able to do that. And what's the best alternative between those two? You choose. And what I'm mostly concerned about is that, in my experience, some people are not even aware of what they could do and they are stuck. And also, on a third level, they might think, this is what I know. Whereas, in my opinion, it would be best to think something like, this is what I know, but I'm always willingly to change my perspective because I know that things are not always the way they seem. As a matter of fact, with the first mindset, you are stagnant and everything you believe is true will constantly happen in the same way. Instead, with the second mindset, if something happens in the same way too many times, you are always able to switch, change a little your perspective, and see if things can work out properly, and most importantly, you are fully aware of this same mechanism. So, that is it. This might have been a much more complicated episode, but I hope you enjoyed anyways. And by the way, if things are complicated, that means you should try to understand them, because you want always to improve, right? With that said, see you guys.